Okay, class, picking up where we left off at, I made a slight error here in this problem. It should have actually been negative 40x plus 160. So I'll write that here. Because remember, our y-intercept was 160. So now, since we're dealing with f of x, g of x, and h of x, we will replace our y with g of x. So that took care of the linear equation. Now we have to deal with these exponential equations. Now, we could just put this in the calculator and be done with it. But because it said by hand, let's do this by hand. First of all, we have to get where x is 0. So we notice here in this first, the f of x, we're dividing by 2 here. So if we go up, we'll be multiplying by 2. So this would be 0 and 160. So remember, our equation is y equals ab to the x. So now we will have y equals, a would be 160, b to the x. So now what we're trying to find what b is equal to. So we could just use one of the ordered pairs here. I probably would use 1 and 80 just to make it a little easier. So 80 would be our y, and 1 would be our x. So now we will have 80 is equal to 160 times b, divide each side by 160, and then we will have, this would be 1/2 is equal to b. So we will have f of x is equal to 160 times 0.5, or you could put 1/2 to the x. Okay, that takes care of our f of x. Okay, now we need to go to our h of x. Okay, h of x is the same thing. If you notice here, we're multiplying by 3. So when we go up to the 0, we would have to divide by 3. So this would be 0, 4. So our a would equal 4 here. So we would substitute. We would have y is equal to 4 times b to the x. Now I probably would use 1 and 12 to substitute in. So we had 12 is equal to 4b to the first. So we know that would end up giving us 12 is equal to 4b. Divide each side by 4, and 3 is equal to b. So our final answer would be h of x is equal to 4 times 3 to the x. So these are our 3 formulas. Okay, now for number 7, I rewrote it because it had skipped up here. It's really g of x is equal to 8/5 x plus 4, and they want us to find the inverse function. Now remember, I always tell you, and this is just for me, you don't have to do it, but I do it. I like to change this to a y. And then I will exchange these two. So y would become x, and x would become y inverse. Now we just need to get the inverse by itself. So we will subtract 4 on both sides. X minus 4 is equal to 8/5 times the inverse of y. So we'll multiply each side by the reciprocal, which will be 5/8. So we will have 5/8 x minus, this will give us 5/2, because 5/8 times a negative 4 will give us negative 5/2, and it equals to the inverse of y. Now this is the process by which you solve this problem on. Now we have to write this back in its formal manner. So it would be g inverse of x is equal to 5/8 x minus 5/2. And that would be the final answer that you would write. Any questions on the inverse? Okay, now, it says here, state the inverse function of k of x, log 8 of x. Okay, so now, this is what I would do. K of x, I would make y. So I have y is equal to log 8 of x. Then I would make this into an exponent. You add a to the y is equal to x. Now I would substitute these two or switch them. It'll be a to the x is equal to the inverse of y. So this is the inverse. The inverse would be a to the x. So k inverse of x is a to the x. And that's it. Are there any questions? Alright, now it says write in logarithmic form. S to the t is equal to w, so it'll be log of s, w is equal to t. Okay, listen, just let me know if this is down too low for you so I can scroll it up so you can see it. Okay, now number 10, it says, matter of fact, let me ask the class this. Can everybody see, which number does it get difficult to see? Is it 10 or is it 11? Or is it 12? 12. So 10 and 11, everybody can see. Okay, so that'll let me gauge this. Okay, number 10, it says write in exponential form. Log h of k is equal to x, so it'll be h of x is equal to k. Because remember, it's the base, this answer is the exponent, and k will be what it's equal to. Now we come to 11. Find with the calculator, give 4 decimal places. Log 4 of 22. Now I'm not sure if this calculator has a log on it or not. It does. Okay, so now most of you have the updated system to your TI-84. So what you would do is press the alpha, the green alpha key, and then window, and then press the number 5, and then type in the values. But since I don't have that, I have to do it the old school way. So I would have to take log, I would have to take 22 log, and then divide that by, what's that, log of 4. So your final answer rounded to 2 decimal places will be 2.2297. Okay, now we come down here to 12. We have log base k of x over 3, and it equals to this problem here, because this was kind of jumbled around. Okay, so now they want to know if this is true or false. So if we look here, we need to combine this here. We know this is subtraction. So with subtraction, we can write the log, its base, and then write this as a division, x over 3. These two are the same, so it's true. Does everyone follow that? Okay, now 13. It says evaluate the following logarithms by hand. We have log b of b to the 4th. We know whenever we have the base and the base taken to an exponent, they simplify out and just leave the exponent. Now if we look here at b, it's the same thing. The exponent is left. Now c, we have log base b of 1 over b to the 12th. Now we could rewrite b 1 over b to the 12th to be b to the negative 12. So these log b's would simplify out, and your final answer would be negative 12. Does everyone follow that? Okay, d, we had log b of 9, the square root of b to the 4th. So this would convert to log base b of b to the 4/9 power. Because remember, this exponent and this index will become the denominator of this exponent. So these bases will simplify out, and your final answer would be 4/9. Okay, now we come here. Log B of 1. Any base, because you're not going to accept 0. Any base that has 1 here, your answer would be 0. Okay, now for F, I'm going to have to do F down here. This is log base B of 1 over the 13th root of B to the 8th. So this would be log base B, and it'll be 1 over B to the 8 over 13 power. So then this will end up becoming log base B of B to the negative 8/13 power, to get rid of it out of that denominator. This log in B will simplify out, so your final answer would be a negative 8 over 13. Okay, now, if you look here at G, log base B and B will simplify out. We know it's assumed to be taken to the first power, so your answer here would be 1. Now we go to H. You got log base B of 0. It's supposed to be no solution. If there's nothing, you could take B, you cannot take B to any power that would give you 0. So that would be no solution. Okay, now we go to page 4. It says a function f of x is drawn below, which we have here. So we have f of negative 2. That means we go where x is negative 2, which is here. And then we find what y is. Y would be negative 3. Now, it says B, f inverse of 0. Now, if you have a problem like this, we know if this wasn't an inverse, this would be an x value, right? But since it's the inverse, that means this is the y value. So we go where y is 0, and then we find out what x is. X would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So your answer here would be 5. Because remember, usually what goes inside this parenthesis is x, but since it's the inverse, it would actually be y.
Last time you did this, you said the inverse of that would be negative 1.
Negative 1. Let me see. Y is 0. Okay. Well, oh, you know what? You're right. You're right. It should be negative 1. It should be negative 1. That is correct. Because we're supposed to go where y is 0, and that's where it hits the x-axis. So it should be negative 1. All right. So thank you for that. Okay, now C. It says sketch an accurate graph of the inverse of f on the same axis. Okay, look. This is what you could do to make this a little easier. Just draw a chart, and then we could write this in its opposite order. Like here, we know this would be negative 3, negative 4, so we'll write negative 4, negative 3. This right here would be negative 2, negative 3, so it would be negative 3, negative 2. Here, this would be negative 1, 0. This would be 0, negative 1. And then finally, this right here would be, let me see, this is 0, 0, 5. So this would be 5, 0. So we will plot all of these points.